Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
I want to thank everyone for coming out this morning. We're going to have a great program. It's going to be well worth the visit here this afternoon. Needless to say, you have some outstanding resource folks up here, so our panelists, the creme de la creme, so to speak. So don't be bashful. Please take advantage of them at the end of the program. But let's move forward. First of all, I want to thank our resource partners, the Calvert County Economic Development Office, the Calvert County Chamber of Commerce, the Calvert County Minority Business Alliance, and the Southern Maryland Minority Chamber of Commerce, and of course, the library itself. So let's give everybody a hand of applause. At this time, I want to give each one of our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves briefly, maybe their name and their organization. Dawn?
Good morning, Dawn Tucker, Lord and Tucker Management Consultants.
Good morning. I'm Allison Chavik with the Governor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business Affairs.
I am Pam Miner. I'm here today with Apex Accelerator, which just became that. We were P-Tech up until about a month ago. So I don't even have any materials yet. But I'm also the president and CEO of the Southern Maryland Minority Chamber of Commerce. And I spent my summers down here in Calvert County growing up.
Debbie Jones with Windy Willow Farm Services. We're mowing contractors.
Tisa Clark, President and CEO of the J.D. Clark Companies.
Keith Gross, CEO, Dillon's Power Washing and Seal Coating.
My name is Shamara Orr. I apologize for my lateness, coming from Baltimore City. And I'm the owner of ANC Package Shop.
Okay, I didn't indicate the organization I'm with. I have a couple of businesses, but I'm also chair of the Southern Maryland Minority Chamber of Commerce. So I'm gonna get that plug in. I just want to remind everyone, we have a resource table back there. So if you want to put some business cards, other information regarding your business or your organization, feel free to do so. You have a list of questions on your tables, but we also want to encourage you to develop your own question. We tried to be inclusive in terms of the major considerations we thought would be useful to you, but of course, I'm sure you all have some questions that are above and beyond what we developed. We also have an upcoming workshop on April 19th on business finances, one-on-one, and needless to say, all small businesses can never get enough capital. So I would encourage you to plan on attending that event on April 19th. And last but not least, I've got a couple of quick questions. How many small business owners, current small business owners? How many are thinking about going into business? How many are with organizations or resource partners? Okay, how many are currently doing government contracting of any sort, local, federal, state? Okay, that way our panelists kind of have an idea who's here. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to Kathy.
Good morning, I'm Kathy McAdams. I'm the Business Retention Specialist for Calvert County Economic Development. Thank you for joining us today. Our panel, as Etzel said, has a mix of experts. They're either business owners who are doing contracting or they're resource partners where you can go and get information and assistance as you move to grow your business. So I'm going to begin with panel questions. As Etzel said, if you have questions, please write them on an index card and Grace will come around and pick them up and give them to me so I can read them to the panel as well. I wanted to let you know that we did have a lot of businesses that were interested in coming today, but they were not available at this time. So we are videotaping and it will be available to watch afterwards, even if you would like to go back and review what you learned today. So I will start maybe with Allison. Maybe you can say what are Emma and Sam and what is the difference?
Okay, thank you. I think this might be a tag team question. So Emma and Sam, in its most basic term, is Emma is the state vendor platform and Sam is the federal vendor platform. So let me tell you a little bit about the state platform. There's no cost to register. You identify yourself to the system as a vendor. The vendor profile you enter in Emma is very important. Garbage in, garbage out. If you do not tell the system efficiently what you do, then it doesn't send you the appropriate notifications. Every solicitation in the state of Maryland over $15,000 will be published on Emma. Emma performs now as a procurement platform and will transition to a complete procure to pay system over the next 3 or so years. If you want to do contracting in the state of Maryland at the prime contractor level, very specifically, you must learn to navigate Emma. There are all kinds of tools. There are frequently asked questions. There are training videos. Once you register as a vendor, the Emma team has a whole procurement academy, and they will send you notices of their training programs that library is growing. But please take the time to learn a little bit about the system and reduce your frustration so that when you sit down to register, you're queued up and ready with the appropriate numbers you're going to need and identifiers. Don't leave any fields blank, like failure to enter your email address. The system may allow you to move forward, but then a procurement officer could never notify you of anything if there's no email address by which to do that. One of the cool features about Emma, or two, I would say one thing to note about it is that you can have multiple contacts in your same business receive different things from the platform. So really watch that level as you enter your vendor profile. You can have your marketing people, your sales team people, your billing office people. Okay, so you can have multiple people involved in the platform. And secondarily, it's an amazing business research tool. There is so much great data mining available through the open procurement system of the state government. And Emma is one of the most powerful tools. So it's not only going to show you what's open currently, but there's a way for you to go back and look at all the things that have been awarded. If you want to be a subcontractor and you're trying to identify what prime contractors work in the area where you are trying to do business, you can find that kind of information in Emma. If you're trying to understand contracting cycles, if you're trying to identify what typical scope of work might include a socioeconomic procurement goal on it, all of those things can be uncovered through data mining and research, and Emma is a fantastic platform for that. On the federal side, I don't know anything about SAMs.
Like I said, I'm with Apex Accelerator. You may have heard of it as PTAC. It was that for the last 20 years or so. They changed the name because DOD Office of Small Business just recently took it over, and they want us to focus even more heavily on what they call the DOD industrial base and the government industrial base. We're still trying to figure out what exactly that means, but we're still following along suit where we give one-on-one counseling and stuff like that. As far as SAM, System for Award Management, it's very similar to Emma. It's just at the federal level, you register in SAM. If you want to get government contracting, you now have to be in SAM. For years, they would say that and they really didn't adhere to it. But you have to now in order to get contracts and get paid and things of that nature. So what the System for Award Management does is it identifies with unique entity ID information on, it's like like a social security number for your business. And they just changed that over the last year because they used to use the DUNS number for that. And the DUNS number for the SAM registration is no longer really required, but I understand that from the Maryland side that they do care about that kind of stuff. So, and a lot of people in commercial industry also pays attention to your DUNS number. So you want to sometimes get those, but you don't need that to register in SAM. You'll be able to look for opportunities. The beauty of that is that they will, with all the certifications, you can be a woman-owned, you can be a minority-owned, you can be a disabled vet, you can be a vet, you can be in a hub zone. You have those certifications that you can get through the SBA. And one of the good things about Emma is they have the small business reserve. And that is not, it's not gender, ethnicity, it's just small business. And what they do is they created that so that small business could get that a opportunity to be prime experience, because only a small business can get it, and they get the past performance that they need. You can slice it and dice what industry you're in. There's lots of what they call North America industry classification codes to say, this is the industry we're in, and that's how you can look for opportunities. You can also use keywords, and they also have another number called product service codes. And we can talk about some of those things as we move on.
Thank you. And as Allison pointed out, if either of you on the panel have anything in addition that you would like to share, please feel free to do so. So for the businesses that are on the panel, and I'll start with Dawn, what resources did you use to secure your business certifications?
The certifications that my business currently have are, I am 8A federally certified. That's under the Small Business Administration, the Federal Small Business Administration. And I did utilize Procurement Technical and Assistance Center at the time. As Ms. Pam said, it was called PTAC. And they helped me to review my documentation. And I also have the Maryland Minority Business Enterprise certification. But even though they helped me, I had to do all of the work myself, all the paperwork. I did not pay anyone. I liken it to someone who is applying for a business loan, a house loan, you're doing your taxes. So all the records that you use to put into these, and this time they had systems that you uploaded your documentation. The PTAC was a resource to make sure I had the things that I needed, but I didn't have to pay anyone to do my certifications.
So the main reason why we went ahead and got our certification is we're a subcontractor to Lewis Tree Service, and we work on a BG&E contract. So they wanted, my husband is African-American. So we went ahead and did, got our certifications ourselves. Just went through all the paperwork, worked a little bit with Kathy and the small business groups, back in 2010 to do it, and just have continued. The one caveat that I would say is make sure you know what your date is to reapply, because we had an issue with an email address, and it was only going to one that we weren't checking, and so had to jump through hoops at the last minute to go back and get that done. But the documentation is like she said, not a whole lot more than what you would do. And once you have your certification, it's much easier to keep it up. It's basically a no change affidavit and your taxes. So it's not hard to keep up. Just make sure you do keep it up.
For me, my core business, which is as a general contractor, I hold many certifications. So starting at the federal level, I am EDWSB, which stands for Economically Disadvantaged Woman-Owned Small Business. That was done initially through their portal, was very simplified as far as filling out a paper form, submitting it to them. It later changed whereby the beta.certified.gov, which is now just certified.gov, the system converted. And so the whole application had to start from scratch again on the federal side. On the state side, I'm MDOT, Maryland Department of Transportation's MBE, which is Minority Business Enterprise, DBE, which is Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and SBE, which is Small Business Enterprise. And so that was done at the time. It was just as MDOT was converting from manual paper and taking the binder up to their office in Hanover to having the actual system where you could upload. I did it myself as far as organizing all of the documents. There is a checklist that makes it very simplified. And as long as you follow the checklist and have all of those documents in hand, it makes it very, very easy to self-do it. Because of that MDOT MBE, DBE, SBE certification. We are the strongest in the nation in regards to that review process. So I was able to obtain DDOT, which is the District of Columbia's Department of Transportation via reciprocity, and become DBE in the District of Columbia, and also reciprocity into Virginia, which through their small and business development was able to obtain Virginia's DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. While I was in Virginia's system, I in turn also went after everything that they had, being a woman-owned business, being a minority-owned business, being a small business, and so was able to, in that simplified one-time shot of application, just checking all the boxes that I wanted to be considered for. At a local level, each county either has some type of local or some type of minority related certification, depending upon if they've done a disparity study or not, determines what type of programming that they may have within the county. So being as though I'm based in Prince George's County, I do have the reciprocity of the state's MBE. So I have the Prince George's County MBE certification, but then I am based there. So I am a small base business certified there. I'm also certified in Howard County, certified in Charles County, and then as certified with some of the utilities as they have their own programming along with SMECO that's here in this area. So one thing that I found that was very helpful is that once you do one application, it's pretty much the same thing for any other jurisdiction that you need to do it. They're asking for the same documents. And a lot of cases, once you have one, the reciprocity applies across the board to others, depending upon where you offer your services, but all of which were done by myself. I did not leverage any organization. I did not pay for anyone to help. I'm strong in administration. So having all of those documents ready and available assisted in that process being very streamlined for me.
Keith, I'm sorry that you have to go after that. That's just.
I am glad you said that, because that's what I'm thinking, the man.
It's all right, it's all right. We're family up
It's
here.
okay if nobody pays any attention to me, it's fine. I don't have a whole lot to throw at you. But what I will share is, for anyone that's really getting started or been working for a while in their business and where you are now, and how we came to what we did was workshops like this, also working with your local Chamber of Commerce, and then just getting out, meeting and greeting people. A lot of folks are willing to share. We really focus strictly on the Emma working on the state level, only because our infrastructure is not there to really get into bigger things. We did start on SAM.gov and all that stuff, but again, we want to make sure that we're ready for bigger projects, or soliciting other guys to be our partners so that we can go after bigger work. We did use a company called Brown Admin Advantage Group out of Delaware. They're actual locals to here, but they moved. Sade Powell and Dustin Powell, those are the two individuals that I work closely with, and they handle all of my stuff, they got my MBE started. They also work closely with me on doing all my SAM stuff. I didn't touch a thing. I told them, look, I want to start going after more contracts, and they took care of it all. And also they work really close with me on managing all of my commercial contracts as well. And all I do is the numbers, and they just do the conversations with the vendors and all those things. So finding a partner, someone, if you don't have the time, that can actually manage those things for you, because I work currently in the field and I wear a lot of different hats, but having someone that can actually take that for you if you don't have the time to do it yourself. And two, don't bite off more than you can chew, because once you get a contract, if you lose it or don't manage it well, that kind of hurts you with the GCs or things of that nature. So make sure if you're going for it, that's what you want to do, and set yourself up for success going into it. Because myself and Tisa, it's a Tisha, I'm sorry.
Tisa, like Lisa.
Tisa, and I was having a conversation about getting out, if you're going to go there and making the relationships with GCs and contractors up front, getting to know them, because again, they don't know you. And like currently right now, we're starting to see more state in local contracts because we're taking the time, people starting to see us moving around, they like how we look, and they say, okay, fine, let's give you this and see what you can do with it. So it does take some time. And she was telling me earlier, it takes about 18 months to start relationships. I agree. We was a little optimistic last year, but some things didn't work out. I'm seeing the fruits of my labor now from the work that we did last year to get to where we currently are. So take your time, find some partners and make some friends.
For me, let's see, the only difference that I have, I think from her, I don't have any reciprocity, but I do have the hub zone, which is on the federal side. My business is in Baltimore City and I employ roughly right now, 2 people from the area, which qualifies us for hub zone. Let's see, I serve as a sub for a large federal IT provider, which ships logistically to different embassies. And I've never done any prime opportunities. I do need to, I guess, expand a little bit on that. Right now, we're in transition of making our location one of the first automated fully shipping centers in the state of Maryland. So I have not had the opportunity to try to partner with anyone, but I do need to get back to Pam. Pam actually was helping me with my VA certification. However, I do have to relinquish my affiliation with the VA. I'm still a nurse with the VA down there on Green Street. And I'm not ready, not ready yet. So that is something that you have to realize, that you cannot have that full-time employment in order to do your 8A, which we will be up for, as well as the veteran certification. So a lot of people that have part-time businesses or full-time businesses that still have affiliations where they get W-2s can't do that. So, and I'm just not ready yet to relinquish my registered nursing license, because I love what I do. Although it's not technically full-time, I still like to go in and maintain my hours. So let's see, what else?
You're good. I'll come back. We'll come back around. Sorry. Did you have more that you wanted to add?
One thing I wanted to add that everyone, pretty much, I think here in the room can get right away or very quickly is your small disadvantaged business certification. It's called the SDB, which is at the federal level. And how you get it, and you can correct me, Pam, is if you go into SAM, System for Award Management, and put in your profile, then you will be considered a small disadvantaged business, and you can put that on your documentation. And that's an area that the federal government is increasing their percentages of awards to. They are identifying, they're increasing. The federal, President Biden's administration has said that they want the federal agencies to increase awards to small disadvantaged businesses. Now, all this alphabet soup can be a little confusing, but small, that's something that everybody in the room, even if you're a nonprofit, you can go into the System for Award Management, because nonprofits can get contracts. And I just put a plug in for Edsel too. He can help you with all of these paperwork and documentation, because he was with the SBA at the federal level, and that's his business now. So we have a lot of great resources.
Thank you. So I guess Allison and Pam, we talked a little bit about NAICS codes. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on it? And part of the panel question is, can you have more than one?
Yeah, you can have a lot of them. Which is really kind of interesting, because you can have as many as you want, and then you put in your profile that you're a company of one, and you got 30 NAICS codes, it looks a little suspect. So you might want to use it appropriately. And you can go in and change those North America Industry Classification System codes as you're going after certain opportunities that need you or want you to have those codes. So that's what you think of your profiles, almost like in your capability statements, just like your resume. So you may have, because I had an IT business for over 25 years doing government contracting. Sometimes I was doing software, sometimes I was doing hardware, then you got into a little cyber. So based on those opportunities, you want to tighten up your profile to reflect that, because you don't want them having to fish through your information and say, well, what does this have to do with me? So when you're going after those opportunities, put the codes in that is appropriate for those opportunities, and they're changeable.
Now, we could have an entire discussion on capability statement, guys. Before joining the government, I worked in the private sector in communications, and your capability statement with a S after it, because if you do more than one thing, you likely need more than one capability statement. But man, if you can articulate what you do well on that capability statement, that will actually help you translate to some of these other platforms, the information that you have articulated on your capability statement, because you're going to want to name your NAICS codes. There's also commodity codes, and there's also UNSPSC codes. And I apologize that different platforms use different codes, but you also can't boo-hoo about it because you're entrepreneurs, right? If you have to learn 3 different code systems, then just go learn 3 different code systems, okay? But once you know your codes in each platform, you know them. It's a done deal, right? But spend the time and identify them. Emma is going to ask you for UNSPSC codes, right? But contracts are going to go by NAICS codes, right? So you have to learn how to navigate these waters. Don't get caught in the it's hard. Yes, you knew that when you decided to become an entrepreneur. So the hard part, we already figured that part out. Yes, it's all hard. There are so many layers. I think one of the most important things is to understand the simple follow the money.
Yes.
Right, follow the money. What BG&E wants from their vendors is not the same thing as what Calvert County government wants from their vendors. That's not the same thing that the state of Maryland wants. And we don't want the same thing that the federal government wants. Okay, so what does your customer want? In the private sector, you're so good at that, right? You understand the differences. And in the private sector, you navigate between the needs of your independent customers very well. But sometimes that crossover to government, there's something happens in the fog, and we all of a sudden think that that's not the same. It is. We're all unique customers. I will tell you, the state of Maryland does not buy anything. Our agencies and departments procure things, right? We procure things. We have a very structured process, a procurement manual, public document online. You could go read it. It's the book that the procurement officers are using to make these purchases. Want to understand your customer? You can't be more transparent than putting the buying manual online. Okay. But us putting it online is not the same thing as you going to read it, right? And going to understand it. And I think in government, we're often accused of using the same people over and over again. And it's more likely that the folks who've taken the time to understand it know how to stay in the game. It's not a guarantee, right? We are best offer or lowest price. That is our structure in government purchasing. So if you can meet that threshold, you can win, right? Do you want to know what your competitors are doing? I can tell you all kinds of ways to go figure it out. You know that story, give a man a fish and he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. We want you to eat for a lifetime, right? I don't know the answers to every individual question for your individual unique industry, but man, I can load you up with a bunch of tools so that you can go figure it out for yourself. Right? So never stop learning. You've heard changes. Everybody talked about a certification process that has changed. This is a moving landscape, guys. It's moving and evolving. And in government, I got to tell you, we're slow, but we still do move and change things, right? So you have to pay attention. You have to be aware, right? And you got to understand. You have to understand your customer, whether it's private sector or public sector. You have to understand how your customer buys things.
If I can add something to that from a business perspective, one thing actually that Allison's office taught me years in the game regarding the NAICS code. Initially, I had kind of the high level NAICS codes that represent what my core services were. And I attended a workshop at their offices in Crownsville about Emma and navigating through it. And a great tip that her office shared was, when you're going into Emma, and I did apply it to Sam as well, is to drill down in those NAICS codes. So it may take you a couple of hours. It is going to take you a couple of hours, but literally don't just stop at the high level. Drill down all of those to the lower level, because sometimes the buyer is not the person who's leveraging your services. And so when that project manager or the person who's actually going to be leveraging your services, who you'll be working with, when they give that requirement to the procurement officer or the contracting officer, what have you, they may or may not understand your business. They're looking for a specific NAICS code, and that's how they're operating. So when you drill down, and it's an open query search, so you don't have to try to figure out what's the code. Just type in the keyword, of what you do, and then it will pop up. And then if it's relative to what you do, or even if you're in such a niche, you may be in other areas that you might not have thought your next code would have fallen in. And when I made that small change, I started getting more notifications from those systems of stuff that was relative to me because of that 2 hours spent of drilling down the NAICS codes or drilling down the PSC codes and really going in and say, oh, wait a minute, that's what it is. And particularly as a general contractor, they may be looking for a painter, but that falls in my space. So if I just put in commercial and industrial contracting, I'm going to miss the opportunity of the painting or miss the opportunity of the flooring. So going down and picking all of those was very helpful in that.
Thank you.
So because we're still talking codes,
Yes.
and she brought up again product service codes, that's what you think of NAICS codes is what you do. Product service codes is what the buyer wants. And a lot of times people don't even talk about it. So it gets you more granular and further down. So, and with every opportunity that's in SAM, because you want to go there, when you go to the federal procurement database system, you will be able to see, if you're searching kind of just in general, you will be able to see what the NAICS code is and what the product service code, that contract that has already been awarded. So you now know what your target audience buys and how they buy it.
So I'm going to go back to the businesses again, and I'm going to ask, how has your business certification helped your business? I'll start with you. I'll start with you. Go ahead.
I mentioned that my company is 8A certified. So you will, as an 8A company, you get what they call direct awards. Now, you have to have relationships to get those direct awards. They're not just going to come knock on your door and give it to you. But I did have relationships where I could go and market my business and say, I am an 8A company, and based on the regulation, which is the federal acquisition regulation at the federal level, which is the Bible for the federal contracting under FAR Part 19, I can be awarded a direct award. And that did happen. I had a relationship with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. That's where I worked before I left the government. And so I marketed to the organization, to the people that I knew, and lo and behold, they had an opportunity that they said that I could put in a proposal for, and it was for acquisition management reviews of purchase cards. And I said, oh yeah, I can do that. I didn't know I could do that. But I did it, we did it, but anyway. And the PTAC did help me. At the time, it was a young lady named Mary Lee Kolick, and she helped me put my proposal together and make sure all the I's were dotted, or I's were dotted and T's were crossed. So yes, it did help me, and it still is helping me. I have about 3 more years in the program. It's only a 9-year program, and they gave me an extra year because of COVID, but it has benefited my company.
Debbie?
So we've done a few, our big start was with Lewis Tree. And back in 2014, 2015, we kind of branched out. We won a couple state contracts for mowing. So we went roadside, and unfortunately, one of them was on the Eastern Shore, and that one was actually very well put together. It was one that we were able to complete. The other one was in PG County, and that one was a mess. We wound up really kind of losing a lot of money on that one, just because the way the contract was written and the way that the program manager wanted it run were not very well in sync. So we bought a bunch of equipment, we hired a bunch of people, we had to jump through a bunch of hoops, and it was definitely not a good fit for anybody. And they wound up having to go back and redo the contract. So probably the biggest thing is just make sure you understand and you work with, kind of picking out what you want to do. Because that, I'm still paying off a loan from that time period. Which is, I'm going to pay it off this year and I'm going to have a big party. But, it's just, make sure that you don't get in over your head in the beginning, because it's very easy to look at those, look at the contract and say, oh yeah, I can do that. It's just mowing, or it's just, this or that or the other thing. And it becomes more than that. And, especially when you get people that don't understand what they're asking you to do. So that's, and then the other thing is, you're not guaranteed. We had a contract here in Calvert County mowing the landfill, and nobody else had been able to do it. And we had that for three years, I think. And it went back up for rebid, and the people that had not been able to do it before wound up winning because it was low bid. And it's like, okay, well, we trained it for you, so you should be able to do it. So, and so that's kind of the life of, contracting. You can't expect it to keep going. And, but you have to be in it for money, and you have to make sure that, you stick to your guns. Sure, could we have done it for less? Sure, probably. But did I want to do it for less? No. So, make sure you understand your business and, kind of, definitely drill down to those codes and, understand what they want.
So one thing that, and I actually tell my coaching clients this, target your certifications based upon what opportunities you're going after. You really have to understand what the certification yields you. So for example, the state's MBE program is really designed for you to be sub. It's not designed for you to be prime. Even though you can be prime and you get some of the credit because you are MBE. Whereas the SBR program, Small Business Reserve Program, is designed for you to be prime. So when you're looking at the different certifications, it's really geared, you need to know who is your client and what's important to them. I think it was said, earlier that you really have to know and speak their language. How are they buying and how would they like to do it? But the 8A side is that their preferred method of spending? So then 8A makes sense for you to go into. If you're in a local jurisdiction, like a Calvert County or Prince George's County or Baltimore City for that matter, are those buying agents buying more so from someone who is certified that's local? Do they have a local initiative? So then that would make sense. So all of your certifications, and I do have the alphabet soup, but they were strategically obtained based upon the clients that I was going after. So if I'm in Charles County, I know that Charles County is very big on trying to have local contracting dollars spent, having that money recycled within there. Well, then it makes sense for me to be a Charles County certified business. So that's, a lot of times I've seen people start businesses and immediately jump into getting certifications, not really understanding what it does for you. And then you have the alphabet soup, and then you spend every year going through that renewal process and recertification process, which takes some time away from your business, or you have to pay someone if you're partnering with someone to do it, and it does not serve you at all because those are not avenues in which your client purchases. So for me, most of my certifications have been intentional. I didn't get my first one until year 5 in business. I didn't get my state ones until I was year 8 in business. So that I led with experience. And then, oh, by the way, we have these certifications. So here's our bow on the package. That was my business strategy. So again, the critical thing I would suggest to anyone is know how your buyers are buying and what makes sense for them and what they're targeting, especially in government and the SDB. Know what's happening in the government. How are they spending? What are the top buttons? And that's what you go after to kind of add the icing to your cake.
Here we go again. Hey, listen, this panel here is stacked. This is free information. I mean, free information for everybody here, and I'm taking notes. I mean, they give me a lot of stuff here. But back to the question, like I said earlier, I focus mainly on the state side, but I'm very deliberate about what I do, and I tell you why. So when, let's say, a bid comes out, I go to bids just to make friends. Because what they're gonna do, they're gonna send out all the email addresses of everybody that bid on the work. And what I do, I email every one of them and say, hey, my name is so-and-so, these are my services. And funny thing is, probably about 30% of the time, someone sends me something to bid for them. What would you charge for this? So that's one way of creating relationships. I travel all over the state of Maryland, just doing just that. And it's funny now I'm meeting the same guys on certain bids. Hey, I saw you here. Oh, and we try to be flashy. We show up with our name on everything, hats, shirts, trucks. And they're like, who are these guys? Where they come from? And then now they start to see us everywhere. So if you're gonna do anything, be present, make sure that your business looks like something, whatever your service is, if people know who you are, just be deliberate about what you're doing. Just go smack them right in the face, go right there. And we don't hide in the back. One thing I do when I show up on the bid, even if I'm not the best guy there, I don't sit in the back. We go right up front and we build relationships with the person that's bidding so they know who we are. And I make sure I reach directly out to them as well. Let them know what we're doing.
For us, let's see, it does allow people to contact you, the more certifications you have. So we actually have turned down partnerships where you're able to joint venture with other businesses. And the reason I do it is because my hands are full. We're renovating a warehouse space right now, and I just don't have the time because I don't want to partner with anyone and I cannot fulfill my portion of it. So once again, it was mentioned on stage that you don't necessarily want to take on more than what you can chew. And I am big on doing that. So, I mean, we turned down a large opportunity, but I'm focusing on our 5-year of renovating this industrial space, 26,000 square feet for our business. So that's where we are.
Okay, I know this question was directed at businesses, but I can't help myself, so I gotta jump in here. I'm gonna tell you, your comment about the pre-bid meetings, spot on. And I will tell you that from the state side, our folks say that enough of you guys are not coming out to attend those pre-bid meetings. So you wanna step up on your competition, show up. Okay, attend the pre-bid meeting. Now, we have said about relationships, 12 to 18 months to build a relationship, but you go to the meeting to begin the opportunity to shake somebody's hand, to meet somebody. So all pre-bid meetings for the state of Maryland, if there's a MBE goal on that contract, it's mandatory to have a pre-bid meeting, but there will also be pre-bid meetings on scope of work even outside that if the agency feels that it benefits them. So 2 things happen at that meeting. Not only do you get to see who your potential competitors are and what other subcontractors you might be competing against, but you actually get to meet the buying staff or the agency, shake the hand of procurement officers and the liaison for that agency. Because I told you that Emma publishes everything $15,000 above. State spends a lot of money at the $8, $10,000 or $8,000, $10,000, $12,000. Anybody want to turn down $12,000 of work? No, thank you. No, you don't. But you're not going to find them in the same place. You're going to find them through the relationships of knowing who buys what you sell, right? And pre-bid meetings will help you do that. Hey, procurement officer, so nice to meet you. I'm hoping to be part of this project today. But if you have a small procurement tier 1 or 2, their language, small procurement tier 1 or 2 in this area, I'm your gal. right? Here's my capability statement. So you get a double bang for the buck at the pre-bid meetings. You should really be going. If for some reason you cannot go, the procurement officers are required to post the attendance list of the pre-bid meeting on Emma. There's a button on the Emma screen. If you don't see it, it means somebody forgot to click a button. It doesn't mean that the list is unavailable. So you call or your email, you say, I'm interested. I want the list from the pre-bid meeting. You request it. Procurement officers will not chase you down and beat you up for asking a question, okay? Or making a request that's within their job duty. So if they forgot to click a button, go ask them for it. Hopefully they'll get better at clicking the buttons, right? Now for Debbie, she's leveraging her MBE certification in the private sector, right? Yay. BG&E and their contractors don't have certification methods to determine who is, and that's true of many large businesses. So they rely on other places, all these other people who have certification processes. So BG&E says, well, if you hold MBE certification or 8A certification, or so these are other ways that you leverage the certification in the private sector. And remember, all the certifications are free, right? Biggest investment, time. What's our most precious commodity in the world? Time. Choose the way you're going to spend your time. Okay. But her business relationship was not to the state of Maryland, but to the prime contractor for which she contractually became obligated to, right? So now the state of Maryland is not in your contractual relationship with your subcontractor, and there's only so much that we can do. But unlike the private sector, we have these cool things called liaisons. So every agency has a liaison. And if you are performing as an MBE or an SBR or a veteran of the SBE, and you run into problems with the prime contractor that you're unable to resolve on your own, you can reach out to your liaison at the state agency, alert them of what's going on, and find out if there's a way that we can help resolve whatever is going on. You cannot call us 6 months after the contract is over and tell us that the prime is not paying you. Like, that's too late. We can't help you, right? But if you tell us at week 4 and you've submitted an invoice and it's been a month and you have not received payment and you've tried contacting the prime and they're non-responsive, you tell your liaison, who can then go back and look at payment reports. Hey, prime, I issued that money and you told me in this report that you paid them. Why are they telling me they're not getting paid, right? But if you don't loop us in, we're out of pocket on that. So don't forget the liaisons. Our website at the Governor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business Affairs. I know it's a long name, but I think every word's important, so I'm not going to put an acronym there. But on our website and our brochures in the back, there's a list of all the liaisons right on the homepage of the website. So you can see the liaisons for all of the agencies.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm going to go off script just a little bit because there has been some discussion on prime versus subcontracting. And I know that there are people in the room that have not entered into the contracting world. So maybe Pam, could you just explain the difference in?
Yes. The prime contractor is the one who's legally obligated to adhere to the contract that they signed. That means that they are the ones that are legally binded on that contract. They sign the contract with the government or the agency or whatever. But they may get an opportunity that has, like a general contractor. They could have any number of things, like she talked about painting, could have electrician, could have a plumber on it. They have the overarching contract, but they need the plumber, they need the painter. And so they sub those opportunities out, which is starting as a small business is good to be a subcontractor. You don't have to know all the stuff that a prime needs to be responsible for. But you also need to know that sometimes there's what they call a flow down clause, meaning that that prime contractor has in their contract, they have a clause that says the same thing you agreed to, it flows down to your subcontractor, and you need to make them aware that they're equally responsible for those. So that's why the relationships, knowing people, I can honestly say I was in business for 25 years as an IT professional because of relationships. I actually used to play golf with the deputy CIO down there. So and that's how the kid from Baltimore got systems on aircraft carriers and destroyers, because I played golf. There was not many women playing golf back then, and not that there's that many more, but you find it's people act like like she says, it's not the government that buys, it's the people that work for the government. So you got to remember relationships. People do business with people they know, they like, and they trust. Absolutely.
I'm going to start at the very end now and ask this question. Can you provide any tips or tricks to those seeking certifications to help their business grow?
For me, it would be organization. I'm very big on being organized, all the files in regards to keeping your biography up to date, your resumes, whatever. As well as like having the folders with your tax returns. Like anytime you're applying for anything, I just kind of keep like one folder and you can kind of use it, you know, to whatever certifications you want. And then when it comes down to doing your annual certifications, then you would just have it readily available. So that's for me. And also, I guess, getting out to the different conferences. I have not. And the reason I don't necessarily do it is because I'm just not ready to, I guess, take on more than what we have right now. Because we have different strategies of doing things right now. And we serve one of the largest restaurant groups in the state of Maryland that actually keeps us very busy. So it's very complicated for me to take on more. Eventually.
I would say for where I'm at right now, I think the best thing is, you know, I'm taking my time, but also delegating. You know, if it's just you, then I guess it's you. But as your business grows, because we're coming into our 6th year right now, and so things are changing, and we're starting to put people to do specific roles as we're gaining more income. So I think, you know, understanding where you are and who can take some of that stuff off your plate, because what they're saying here, I'm gonna be honest with you, that's a lot for anyone to try to take in. And you might have to find the right person to say, okay, this is your role. If it's not you that can own that whole responsibility, and that's kind of what we're doing. I leverage other folks to focus on that because I'm in so many other places. And again, I'd rather do other things. That's not what my strength is, and that, if that makes sense. So know where you are and find someone that can either manage it if it's not you, to get you all set up.
I think, in addition to what's said, I think I echo those 100%. Having that location that you have access to that has all of the critical documents. I said it earlier, once you do one application, you're going to need the same documents for every other application that you need. One thing that the pandemic taught us is being flexible. So even having those documents in a shared somewhere, so be it Dropbox or in the cloud. So that way, if you need to get to it, no matter where you are. So if you're working in the Starbucks, so you're working at a virtual office and you're filling it out, you have access to those files and keeping them in one central folder so that every time you need it, you go to that one folder to get it. As far as the certifications, and again, I alluded to this earlier, in order to grow, I think you really need to understand who buys what you sell. Because to his point, when you're starting, it is just you, or maybe you and a partner. You can't be everywhere. You can't do everything. And so you want to make sure that you're very intentional about your time. You only have 168 hours a week. We all got the same thing. None of us got extra. So you want to ensure that you are very clear on who is your customer, who is that client, the client avatar, so to speak. SBDC is very helpful, as well as the new name Apex, in helping you identify and walk through who that client is. What do they look like? Is it government? Is it private? Is it federal? Is it state? Is it local? Because a lot of times as small business owners, or you're just emerging and getting started, You just so excited. You just go to everything. And now the stuff is back open. You got 1,000 business cards you done got from Staples. You handing them out to everybody. I've been there, done it. I'm telling you what I know. And you're doing all of this and you done wasted so much time because once you get back and you say, I don't sell to them. They don't buy what I sell. So you've wasted this time. So be very strategic. And even if that means pause and recover, who buys what I sell? And more importantly, do I want them as a customer? Because every customer is not a good customer.
That's true.
Every dollar is not a good dollar. Lessons learned. Lessons learned. So figure that out first and leverage these resources that they have. There's a ton of free trainings that are out there that's posted on the state's website. Apex has it, SCORE has it. Everything that was done in the pandemic training wise was recorded. So it's available in libraries. So you can learn so much on demand, be sitting there at the soccer game and be watching, a video on how to do something, but be intentional. So that way your time is best utilized and that helps you grow and build those relationships.
Yeah, pretty much, what they said. On the other end, coming out, but, yeah, know what you, kind of drill down to what you want to do and make sure you have people in place. Times right now are hard to find new employees.
Oh, gosh.
So, if you want to, grow your business, you need to make sure that you can groom somebody to help, take over. My husband does a lot of the work. I do all the paperwork. So know your strengths, understand your strengths, kind of stay in your wheelhouse, and don't bite off more than you can chew. Stay, the couple of state contracts, we were actually the prime. And, that was, not a good place. I would much rather be a subcontractor, at this point for the most part, because, trying to take on all of that and and I think probably the biggest thing is understand how you're going to be paid as either a sub or a prime, because if, it's net 30, well, you got to remember that you've got to fill out you got to do the work. And then you got to supply the invoice and then they have to accept it. And then it's 30 days.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of time that you have to front that money up front. So, make sure you understand how you're being paid. And, pretty much everybody now pays electronically. So it's, you don't have to wait for the check to come in the mail. I couldn't imagine a check coming in the mail during the pandemic because that would have been, a real mess, but, just understand those, that end of things as well. Pam, anything?
Yeah, I do. So one of the things, and I've recently started getting more involved on the business side of it. We talk about being in business, and for the most part, we go into business doing something we either know and love, or we did it as a profession. We woke up one morning and decided we were going to be business people. You weren't a business person. I wasn't a business person. I was a computer scientist. I've gotten lost in the business side. And I just recently, what I tell my clients now, I said that all lessons don't have to be earned. Some can be learned. And places like PTAC, SBA are here to teach. And that's what you want to recognize. You don't have to pay for this kind of information. And when people say, I don't like to say that PTAC, Apex is free because that people put something on the word free. It's not free. It's your tax dollars. You as a state resident, you pay taxes. Your tax dollars pay for you to get service. So remember, it's not free. You paid for that. Whether you get it or not, that's up to you going out. So one of the main thing that I've been looking at recently is I've been looking at cash flow statement. I think every business owner needs to be able to have a cash flow statement they need to look at. It's what's going in, it's what's coming out. You can at any time, it's a snapshot in time. And by you knowing that, you can then strategically work from there. Oh, well, if I keep doing this and I keep charging these rates, at the end of the year, I'm maybe at the negative. You need to know that kind of stuff. It's the pulse of your business. So you need to do things is to be recognized you are a business owner. You're not the baker like in the E-Myth, where everybody told her how good her baking was, but they ain't tell about, I gotta find a place to bake the stuff. I gotta get ovens. I gotta get inventory. So those things that you went in business to do, you usually get far away from them by the time it's all over. So if it was a hobby, keep it a hobby. Recognize as a business.
So I think with regard to certifications and just echoing what the group is saying here, the shotgun approach is probably not the right approach. You don't want to just go sign up for everything. You need to make sure that the certification that you're seeking aligns to the customers you're chasing and the services that you provide, right? So take the time, figure that out first so that 10 years down the line, you're not saying, I wasted my 8A certification because I didn't understand how it worked appropriately, right? So don't do that. You know, everyone is not your customer. That is, you know, that I love this from the group, because when you're young and entrepreneurial, you don't want to ever say that. You want to say yes to absolutely everybody all the time, but you don't say yes and lose money. That's not why you're in business, right?
Right, that's
So you got to know that. You just have to know that. With the certifications themselves, when you talk about what makes it easier, you know, you dig in, you do the work, you do some of the things Tisa said. These are common. Nobody's asking you anything that you shouldn't already know about your business. They're just asking you to put it into a package, right? So these are things that you should know. But at Small Business Development Center and Apex, they're there to help you, right? If you need the help, go get the help. Don't struggle, right? And then be sure to renew and maintain those certifications, because it's a whole lot easier to maintain than it is to do it all over again. And basically, if you fall out of the system, you just have to start all over again. And there's not much recovery that I'm aware of from that. For those of you that are interested in the MBE certification, I would encourage you to look at the state has a certification unit. My office oversees the socioeconomic programs, but the certification portion for MBE is housed at MDOT and Maryland's Department of Transportation. And they conduct a free online workshop every month where they walk through the entire certification process so that you know how to fill out the application. 50 to 60% of all the applications they receive are incomplete. So the clock doesn't start ticking till you have a complete package, and then they're supposed to get it done in 90 days. But I've heard terrible stories of people we've chased you for 6 months trying to get 2 key documents, right? And then the clock finally started ticking. So people will tell you it took me 9 months. That's the truth, right? But it's not necessarily government holding you up. It's just making sure that you come to the table with everything that you need. So this free certification workshop is a blessing. It walks you through the whole process. And I tell you, will relieve a lot of aggravation if you're going to go out there and do it yourself, which you totally can. And then I would just, in the who is the customer? Sam's and Emma are vehicles to find them. You register in the systems and then you monitor what it's telling you is available. Emma will automatically send you messages when a solicitation is launched that fits your profile. Does Sam's do the same, or do you have to go in and search it? Okay, so Sam's will do the same. Now, Emma includes all the county governments, so they must publish on Emma. But like if you see something for Charles County that you're interested in, when you click on that link in Emma, it's going to move you over to their purchasing platform. So it's not going to happen in Emma, but it's going to notify you in Emma. So follow the money, watch who the buyer is. Just because they're in Emma doesn't mean they're a state agency, but it's great because it taps you into, you might find out that what you sell, the county governments are purchasing more than the state government is purchasing, right? And then you'll know how to pivot who you're looking for as your customer. So these platforms are really powerful just to go get logged in and then sit and watch what's happening, even if you're not ready yet, right? While you get ready, you're educating yourself so that when the time to launch is there, you know as more than you know today, right?
I do everything that everyone said, strategy, having your plan, finding good people to work with. All money and all contracts are not good. You can say no or cancel it. There is a cancellation clause, and if you know your contract, know what you can, and don't let people take advantage of you, because they will try to take advantage of you. Okay, people will do that. But with that said, if you know what is in the contract and the rules and the regulations, you don't have to go and beat them over the head. But if someone is trying to do something that is not in your contract, and you have to let them know. And the onus is on me to make sure I am monitoring and that's contract administration. Another tip is this: we definitely are known by the company that we keep. Kamira was mentioning that people will come to you when you have a certification and ask to partner with you. So some of the folks, yeah, I will partner there. I have some really, really good partners. One of my partners, she came to me and I got a contract at NIH because she was graduating from the 8A program and she needed an 8A, and we worked. Now, there are other people that have come and we have tried to partner, and it was one gentleman. I mean, it's like you're dating, it's the truth. I said no, and Edsel, he remembers the situation. We were anyway. No, I am not working with you. And it pretty much came down to, and you're not trying to be rude, but you will know who you can work with. And partners will give information, and we're doing, when you have a partner, you're doing business development for one another too. Mm. Because people will send me things, I will send them things. You set up your non-disclosure agreements, you do things in decency and order. However, when you know you can work with somebody and you can trust them, like Pam said, you can trust somebody, but you have to have your paperwork in place. My husband said, he tells me, this business, Dawn, this is business. So I'm a nice person, but when it comes down to it, sometimes, you might let things slip, but it could come back to bite you.
Can I say one last thing? One of the databases there's two databases out there, the .gov, but do the .gov and the .mil. If it's .com, they want some money. So the government databases that can give you information, I like to take my clients there right away. I show them, this is the type of contracts you can get. And I will drill it down in the FPDS, Federal Procurement Data System.gov, and it will tell you how many businesses bid. Sometimes it'll be less than 5. Sometimes it'll be 2 or 1. So to show you that, because you're thinking, well, I can't do it. You're sitting at home telling yourself you can't get it. And I said, well, if you were one of those, it's only 2 bidded. So if you was number 3 and you were better, you would have got it, but you didn't do that. So you gotta know the information out there. I'm a data geek anyway. I spent 30 years as a database person. So I look for data and I do a lot of analysis on that. So it's out there. You just gotta dig for it.
So I want to ask about capability statements, because I feel like they're very important, but I also feel it's kind of like a resume, and they're hard to start and hard to maintain. So I would like to hear any feedback that you might have on capability statements. How many do you have? Are you changing them? And what are they doing for you?
I have several capability statements. I do by the type of work that we're going after, as everyone has said. I do have folks who help me to keep my capability statements up to date. Generally, the ones that I have are 1 to 2 pages. However, I do have technical white papers that are considered capability statements in PowerPoint presentations. Because you never know when someone asks you for information, and have that library ready. I have all that information, and we have people who help us to keep those documents up to date.
I had always heard the capability statement should be very consolidated, one page, front only. I recently heard that you now get the back. That's wonderful, amount of space. But truly, this is, you're trying to tell somebody why they would choose you, right? So you have to absolutely understand your differentiators, right? And you have to be able to talk past performance or past experience and understand the difference between the two, because in the federal government, you cannot call something past performance if you have not been paid to do it under this company's name. So if you opened a company doing the same thing you did being paid by someone else, it's called something else, relevant experience or historical experience or something. So your language and but it should be clean, clear, and concise, not loaded up with a bunch of graphics and stuff unless you're trying to fill space. But it is NAICS codes, and please no info at email address on your capability statement. If you are not brave enough to hand a buyer a document with something that's how to actually reach you, then you probably shouldn't be talking to that buyer at all right now. So no info at, no generic kind of stuff. And one of the things that we like to make sure is on that capability statement is how you can receive payment. Everybody, you need to make sure that people know that you accept credit cards or electronic forms of payment, and your capability statement is a good place to make sure that you include that. It's becoming key to doing business. Nobody wants to write you a check. So if they have to write you a paper check, that could actually be the reason they don't choose you.
Because your job is to make the buyer's job as easy as possible.
Yeah. So now in state government, well, and it's my understanding that in the federal government, you can meet with buyers and hand them your capability statement and talk to them. At the state, we don't buy anything until it's that open solicitation. So you can't pitch us, right? It doesn't work the same way. That's why the pre-bid meeting is so important, so that you have the opportunity to introduce yourself and let them know that you exist, right?
Well, you use at the federal level, you can use the capability statement for your introduction. It's like your elevator pitch almost, from a standpoint, it's short, it's succinct. What you want to do is that you can go to those databases, again, those .gov databases, see opportunities that other people have won, that you could have won had you known about it. And you can pitch those people with that capability statement because you know that they have gotten those opportunities. You can do what I call ethical stalking. You can find those people in LinkedIn. And you don't necessarily want to be hounding them, but maybe you find that because there's a white paper out there for what's going on in your industry that they didn't know about. You just send it to them. They don't, you're not taking credit for it. You're sending them the link and you're saying, I saw this and I see your organization is doing this. This is a great article. I thought you might. That's the connections. That's some of the network you can do virtually.
I'm going to steal back a minute, a second, and just say, Google search it. A Google search will get you 7 million results, but find a format that you like, and flattery, greatest form, right? Copy someone else. It's the greatest form of flattery, right? So find one that you like from the format. Obviously you have to customize it to yourself, but that's the white piece of paper. Oh no, how do I start? Can be the hardest thing. Don't bother with that. Go do some searches, find one that you like and give yourself a model to work from.
That's true. A quick thing too is that when we look at stuff, say I'm in the janitorial service businesses and I'm looking for opportunities. And I call it janitorial. Well, your client may call it housekeeping. They may call it
Custodian.
Financial, what is it? Facility maintenance.
Yeah.
So that you could totally miss, and you say, well, everybody buys what I sell. Yeah, but how do they call it? So that's why it's important to know, do that level of the homework that everybody say you have to do.
So we don't have a capability statement, being honest. Probably something that, I really should look for, at this point, because you just don't know, when you want to go out and redo it. But, kind of that whole Yeah, we say we're mowing contractors, but, technically we're vegetation management. Last year I went and got my pesticide license to be able to, spray for BG&E. So that could open a lot of other opportunities. It's just a matter of, kind of that fear of stretching too thin again.
But I think that also brings up a good point. As you're adding certifications or things to your business, making sure that you are updating your capability statement so it's relative to the audience that you're. Seth, do you have anything?
Yes, so I have multiples. So I have at least one per company that I have. And it's very tailored to the client that I'm going after. And so I do have a standard one with an info at on my website. But the ones that I actually distribute do have the personalized, because again, it's based upon who I'm sending it to. The critical things in mind, first and foremost, is branding. So it looks, everything that comes out of my shop looks the same. So the brand is the same, the color coding is the same. So be it the website, be it the business card, be it the CAPE statement, all of it looks, so it looks more professional versus having all of this hodgepodge kind of stuff. And the critical components that I ensure that are in mine is, who we are, a quick snapshot, what we do, what our past performance is, what separates us, like why do you want us? What makes us different than anyone else? I definitely include my critical statistics. So, where we located, how long we've been in business, what are our NAICS, what are our PSCs, what certifications do we hold? All of that, there's like a little table there. And then I include payment and payment related things. So for example, we accept what they may call the procurement card or the P card. So we speak the language that they speak. That just means we accept credit cards. So commercially, we accept credit cards. To them, it's P cards, procurement cards. So just speaking their language. Also in my construction space, bonding matters. So indicating what my bonding capacity is on that CAPE statement, because these again will be questions that they're going to ask off the top of their head. Does this company at least have A, B, C, D? If they don't have that, then they're throwing that paper to the side. And then I even got savvy at my 10-year anniversary, and my business card actually is my walking CAPE statement. So I've made my business, so if I have it with me, again, it matches my brand, has my direct contact, but when they open it, it's a snapshot of the certs I hold, my NAICS codes, all of that. So if I don't have the piece of paper handy, I can simply give them a card. And of course, they're so enamored at, ooh, you got everything right here. So they can see right there at one glance. And I use that again if I'm in those networking environments to share that. So that's like my little mini CAPE statement that I carry when I'm giving. But I don't give it to everybody because I know who my client is.
I did that probably 15 years ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
You have anything to add?
No.
So I'll actually go back to Pam, and I think Apex does do
Great job.
a workshop on capability statements. Is that
Yes,
correct?
there's one coming up soon, I believe.
So
If you
it,
go to our website and you register with us, then you get the notifications, all the different training that comes up. A lot of times the trainers are not Apex employees. They may be subject matter expert in that kind of area because they want us counseling, not necessarily teaching.
The state also has a monthly free training program, a webinar program called TIPS. It's a training and insights for procurement success. And half of it, there's 2 classes every month. One is going to be procurement and state socioeconomic related, and the other is going to be about building capacity for your business, like how to respond to the 3 C's of responding to solicitations or cash flow management, or so they're going to be general business related skills. But if you grabbed one of the brochures at the back, there's a little more information about TIPS. We do a procurement or a capability statement class. Ours will be in December.
here, I apologize. Do you have something you'd like to add?
I do have a capability statement. I guess I'm just, I need to refresh it. And I need to refresh it for 2023. What I normally do is based upon my largest contract award, I like to go back and put the amounts and things in there. Because that's imperative, because no one's going to trust you with $1 million contract if you probably never did $1 million. So for me, that's what I do. I haven't did it for 2023, but I will.
So we did receive two questions from the audience. It is now 10:54, so we only have about 6 minutes left. This went by so quick. I was actually having a nightmare last night that I was going to be up here and nothing was going to go right. So yes, I can breathe now. So one of the questions was, what resources do you use or recommend for writing proposals? And what is the range of costs for proposal writing? Does anybody have any?
Well, I was fortunate enough to have a proposal and a contracts person that, because originally I got into IT 100 years ago when nobody knew what it was. And my VP of contracts, she had been a core for the Army, and she was a VP of contracts of Network Solutions. That was the first domain registration. We just actually celebrated the 30 year of the internet because we were the first domain registration company. The last Friday was amazing, but anyway, so I had that, I had those connections. I didn't have a lot of money, so it had took friends that could write. And that's what you want to find. You want somebody who understands the process, and it doesn't always have to be somebody that you have to pay at the moment. People want to see you succeed and they have those skill sets. Sometimes that's what you have to use. Otherwise, you look at federal contracts, it's a little easy just because they follow a very tight A through, is it M or L? Yeah. And you know what sections you want to pull out to make sure this is what you want to do, but you want to read it from beginning to end and before you submit and make sure you didn't lose anything. So if you have somebody who understands that whole contract reading process, that's what you want, somebody who can do that, if nothing else. Set up your compliance matrix. So this is what they ask in section A. Then you say, this is how we did it. This is the page in the proposal that it's on. So those are the things that you do.
And I would add, you want to have your library, your proposal library set up with documents that as much information that you can organize yourself with, as we have said up here, it will serve you because a lot of the information will repeat. But you do want to find people that if you do need proposal writers that you can ask and look for references and resources and referrals because they're out there. You just need to have referrals and like on LinkedIn, things of that nature, but have your library set up and be prepared with your information.
And I just want to add that you want to vet your consultants. If you do bring them in, because you will pay a pretty penny for some. And you want to make sure that they can give you what you need, as well as, I guess, be able to help you navigate why if you didn't get the contract. So.
Yeah, I will say this, tell you that if you bid on a proposal, if you submit a proposal with the state of Maryland, you're entitled to a debrief.
Federally too.
Always do the debrief, but there's a window, miss the window, you miss the opportunity, but always request the debrief because it could have been that you messed up the paperwork on page 7 somehow, or your math on page 3 and page 9 and 11 were all different numbers. Like those are curable. You could fix that if you understood that that's why you didn't win. Right. So always request the debrief. Our tips program, we are going to do the 7 C's of proposal writing. I think it's in April. Pay someone. If it's not your skill, get a skilled person to do it. But the key, because we're asked all the time for a template at the state, there's no such thing. The answer is the solicitation itself. Respond to every element of the solicitation. Read it. I've heard, read it once. The second time when you read it, create yourself an outline and then use that to start how you compile your responses to it. But please, when you're done, let somebody else proofread it, not you, not you. Let somebody else proofread it for you because you don't want to, that's not where you want mistakes.
And Pam mentioned that compliance matrix. Find out what that means, okay?
So the last question from the audience.
If I could add
I'm
something
sorry.
to that.
Sure.
Because I think when small businesses, and I'm going back to when I first started, we hear a request for proposals and we think proposals is the only way that we can get a contract with the government at any level. It is not. So they can do a request for quote, RFQ. There's not a whole bunch of writing involved with that. They're simply saying, this is the item, and I'm sure you see it quite often. This is the item. Here's the number of hours we anticipate. What is your price per hour? And there it is. So that would be a request for quote. So you don't have to do the proposal. Those are kind of low-hanging fruits that you can get at federal, state, and local level. Also, where they may also put out what's called a request for information, a RFI. So this is them fishing to see who's out there that may be able to offer them what they're thinking about purchasing. Respond to that. And that could be a simple response of your CAPE statement that they see that someone has that particular kind of skill or can provide that. So an RFP or request for proposal or you responding is not the only way you can get a contract. And I know for me, it's not where I started. I responded to requests for quotes, those types of things. And then it was only then getting that, because then I had the revenue and the resources to support having a consultant to assist or doing it in-house to do the proposal. So you can get a contract with federal, state, local, just by giving a quote, and they will ask for it that way.
So our last question was on small business bonding, and I'm going to ask, does anybody by show of hand have experience with small business bonding? Okay, so at the end of this, I want everybody to network. Take time to tap into the resources that are here. Person who asked the question on small business bonding, Tisa would be your point of contact. Maybe, and all of the contact information is in the bio. I would like you guys to know that everybody that is here as a volunteer, and they were more than happy when I reached out, or Grace reached out to say, yes, I will come and help. So I want to thank everybody. I know some people drove here from Baltimore this morning, so I appreciate all of their expertise and time. I also want to thank Grace Bailey, who helped me organize everything. A small gift for all of our panel members.
Thank you so much.
I would also like to encourage you, please, I know Grace handed
Thank
you
you,
a
Grace.
survey. If you would just take a couple minutes to complete it for us. We'd like to do trainings based on what our audience would like to.
Thank you.
And also, as Ethel shared with you, we have an upcoming workshop. If you're interested in getting our newsletter, it does have all of our trainings, workshops. It also has a lot of information based on a monthly subscription. I will end with saying, is there anything from the group that you would like to share before we meet today?
I'd like to say, now I'm the president and CEO of the Southern Minority Chamber. What we do is we put on events that we call Coffee and Conversations. That's like a morning kind of thing, it's virtual. And we'll have a subject matter expert and they'll talk for about 30 minutes, then you can ask questions. And usually maybe a week or two later, they'll put on a lunch and learn to get you more in depth. And for our live events, we've been doing quarterly, we're looking at doing what I call ABCs, after business connections. We had one in September, we had up at Top Golf, and it was a blast, so.
Thank you. So everybody who provided your email information, we will send you a link that will include today's video if you would like to go back and take some more notes or have anything else that you would like to add. Once again, I know everybody's time is important, and I thank you for coming today, and I hope that you gained some knowledge from our panel.